Hi, welcome everyone to the Inside Story podcast, where we take you behind the scenes of building diverse businesses and becoming a successful entrepreneur. I'm your host, Dursun Halimova, a business coach and facilitator on a mission to help build impactful businesses. Today, my guest is Dorothy Germain, who is a managing director at Spa Escape here in Luxembourg. Much like the garage founders behind companies like Google and Apple, Dorothy launched her first spa business, a spa and beauty salon, from her own basement, building her vision from ground up. Her company, Spa Escape, is located in Bel Air, Luxembourg, and it offers a holistic spa experiences designed to promote deep relaxation and well-being. Using high quality and all natural products, Spa Escape provides personalized services that targets stress, fatigue, and tension. I bet most of you would love to get these treatments. Dorothy, it's great to have you on the Inside Story podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dursun. It's very nice being here. Thank you.
To start off, I would read several unfinished sentences, and I would love you to finish them for us, please.
Okay. All right. I'll try.
The first one, being an entrepreneur means.
Being an entrepreneur is my heart and soul.
Great. Building an impactful business requires.
Tenacity. You have to be tenacious. You have to have the will. You have to have the desire. And even when the going gets rough, you have to stay with it. Keep your eye on the prize, as the saying goes.
Great. Failure is.
Failure is an opportunity to look at what went wrong, what could have been better, and failure means to get up and start all over again.
Success is a result of.
That hard work and tenacity.
And the last one, being fulfilled in life means.
Wow. Family, friends, and love.
Great. Thank you so much for those, Dorothy. And to start off the conversation now, help us to get to know you as well as your business, Spa Escape. What problem do you solve and for who?
When I started Spa Escape, the whole idea behind that really were to help individuals become, and we use the catchphrase, better versions of themselves. And that for me meant being well. And health and wellness are number one in my view. And if we're not well mentally, physically, spiritually, then we're not being our best selves. So that was the reason for starting Spa Escape, to just see what I can do to help others become healthier and live a healthier lifestyle.
Great, thank you. And to give our audience a little bit of background story as well, you have an academic degree in psychology, but for several years you actually worked as a sales manager at a retail shop in Canada, where you are originally from.
Right.
And you were managing this shop for a number of years until the company closed down. And at that point, you decided to start things over and do things completely differently, right?
Exactly.
You decided to start your own business. This was early 2000s. Can you briefly share the steps you took at the time to start your own business while still in Canada?
Right. So I worked with a retail chain of stores, and I was working in their buying office 9 to 5. And then the opportunity came up to become manager in one of the retail stores. So I went through the management program, which lasted about a year. Then I became a manager in fact, in a number of stores, but changing different locations. Then after a number of years, the company closed down because of what was happening in the marketplace at that time. And so I had to step back and say, okay, the company's closing down. I'm losing my job. What am I going to do? And I really did a 180 or a 360 and just said, you know what? This is what I like to do with my life. I really like to work with my hands. I like to work with people. I like to see different people and to be doing different things on a daily basis. For me, going to the office, and I'm not knocking the office at all, everybody has their own walk in life, but for me, that was not it. I felt that my hands, I work with my hands, I'm a touchy-feely person. And so that was, I believe, my calling that said, okay, this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to get into the well-being field and I had no problems, as I said, working with people on a one-on-one basis and watching them go from wherever they were in life to hopefully improving their life and lifestyle. So I decided that massage therapy is what I would like to do. And one of the things that helped me to make that decision was I was in a car accident at some point in time there, and I had to go for some physiotherapy. And that just kind of clicked for me and say, wait a minute, this is helpful. And I liked, although it was, from helping to reconstruct my body from a healing perspective in terms of an accident, I just said, okay, this is something I'd like to do. So that clicked. And then I did some research and I just fell in love with what I was learning and understanding. And then I just started studying that and took a complete different turn in my life, yeah, and career.
Yeah, from what I know, you've also took some courses. You retrained yourself in this
Exactly.
new field,
Right.
and you started your first massage salon out of your basement.
Exactly. Yes. And so then I decided that, okay, to start off, let me start off, smaller. And I had an empty basement. So I transformed my basement to my studio. And at the time, so that I offered massage treatments, I offered facial treatments, and we did some waxing and manicures and pedicures, just to have a variety of services that I would offer my clients. So I started that from scratch. Back in those days, we had flyers that you were doing these little flyer advertising. It wasn't like it was today, where we had to have social media and just clicking of some buttons and send, and that was it. We literally sometimes door to door. I'm speaking to friends and neighbors and then doing the flyer distribution and so on, newsletters as well. Emails and so on were not as prevalent as it is today. So it was mostly flyers, word of mouth, and just talking to friends to ask friends and tell friends. So that's how I got my customer base.
Amazing. And at some point, you decided to travel in Europe and
Mm-hmm.
you came to Luxembourg
Mm-hmm.
just for a short period of time. And
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
you, I guess, fell in love with the country and you
Yes.
decided to stay here.
Right.
This was, I believe, 2015, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
know a little bit earlier that was 2007. So I traveled in 2007 and then decided to move in 2008. And one of the reasons how I got it's interesting. I was just again I was looking to do some kind of a move from Toronto because I'm from there, and I came to Europe and I really fell in love with it because I like the kind of like the slower pace. People might not realize that it's slower a little bit here, but I'm comparing large city Toronto to Luxembourg. And I just like the green, the nature. There's something about it that I fell in love with. I was thinking, oh my gosh, you can go from city to country in like 10 minutes. To me, that's amazing. I mean, coming from large city Toronto, you have to drive a lot. Canada is a beautiful country and I will always love it, and lots of nature there as well. But you have to drive quite a distance to get into the nature. Whereas here it was just 5-10 minutes. And again, living in the city in Toronto, it was just, for me, it was just a lot. It was just so busy. You just did not have time to breathe or to think. You were just on the go. And when I arrived here, and I thought, wow, people are living as opposed to existing. You know what I mean? And that I like that. So I fell in love and then just decided this is going to be it for me. Home. Yeah. This is going to be my new home.
I think that's the biggest advantage. I haven't been to Canada, but
Hmm.
I've been to United States, and I
Right.
think maybe in a way it is similar as well, right?
Oh, yes.
In Europe, people love their life. They
Right.
like to live,
Yeah,
right? They like to take some time off, and
exactly. Oh, yeah.
the pace is also much slower.
Slower. Yeah.
And so going back now, you
Hmm.
relocated to Luxembourg,
Right.
and You didn't know anyone. You basically were on your own. And instead of getting a full-time job, which I guess would have made your transition easier, right?
Hmm.
And maybe faster, meeting
Hmm.
people through your work, you
Right.
decided to start your own business here as well. And
Right.
like in Canada, you built a spa and wellness business.
Hmm.
And you first started a company called Spa Anywhere, Anytime, which
Exactly.
was mobile spa services, and you had that business, I believe, from 2011 to 2017,
Exactly.
roughly.
Right.
Can you share what was it like to set up this business from ground up, now in a new country where you don't know anyone? And what were the steps you took, and how did you find your initial customers?
Right. Well, at the beginning, as you said, why didn't I try to find a 9 to 5 job or something that was easier? Maybe start working with a company, and something, any of those questions are good questions. But I felt because I had that entrepreneurship pull inside of me. I had started it already in Canada and I knew what it took. So I decided that I would go that route as I came here. The other thing that I found as I was doing some research was that there was a niche for treatments. I started working out with hotels, a lot of expats, and I found that there was this niche of a lot of people in Luxembourg who were not necessarily Europeans, or if there were Europeans as well, French or Luxembourgish was not their first language. So they've had difficulty finding some treatments that they were accustomed to in their home countries. And also the language was a barrier for them. So when I found that out by getting myself associated with a lot of the women groups here in Luxembourg, like they were done in English, and associating myself, going to a lot of meetings, just looking on websites and checking out what's going on in Luxembourg and finding some places to put myself. Then I started meeting more people and speaking to them about my ideas. I think it was more than an idea at that time because I had the massage table, I had the sheets, I had towels, I had the car. I just needed the clientele base. So that was one way since starting working with expat companions, expat companions who would purchase services for their companions who were actually working in Luxembourg. So they were the spouse or the companion that was at home and could use some services like that. So that was one clientele base. The second was coming from Toronto as well. I worked with a lot of hotels there, and what they did, of course, a lot of visitors and travelers coming into the city, and they were just looking for some spa services at the hotels. I worked with a company as well that supplied those treatments. So I took that on myself and said, okay, I'm going to visit a lot of these 5-star hotels and 4-star hotels, understanding now then that Luxembourg was a hub for a lot of visitors coming into, I mean, the financial district, the IT, all of these services, insurance companies. So they have a lot of guests or clients coming into the city. So it would make sense that the 5-star hotels could and should offer some of those services to their guests. So I approached a number of them and they liked the concept and the idea, and we became contract signed.
Amazing. I can almost imagine you with your mobile masseuse salon, right? So,
Mm-hmm,
as you
mm-hmm.
mentioned, you had your massage table, right? Which you were carrying.
Oh,
I
yes.
bet you have grown so much stronger during those years. So, at this point, from 2011 to 2017, when you had this mobile massage services, you didn't have a fixed location, right? You
Right.
were, as you pointed out, mainly kind of going from hotels to hotels
Mm-hmm.
to provide the services. But then something has changed. In 2018, you decided that that was it.
Mm-hmm.
You turned your mobile services into a fixed location
Right.
called Spa Escape.
Exactly.
You started Spa Escape mainly relying on self financing, navigating complex challenges, and moving locations at
Right.
least 3 times.
Right.
How did you manage the early financing? And what were some of the biggest financial lessons you have learned in those initial stages of now setting up a fixed location, right? Which involves a lot of investment, upfront
Absolutely.
investment, as well as a lot more financial costs than before.
Right, right. So let me step back a little bit because I think that
Mhm.
was part of the question to answer this question. I have to step back a little bit in setting up the mobile spa company. That was quite interesting as well because again, I did make the comparison between here and Canada. So in Toronto, you would need to just get your company name, you run down to the registrar, you pay $60 at the time, and as long as you just check to make sure the name was not already being used, you could get your name for your company, and away you go. You can start doing whatever. You come up with your own finances, you do whatever, as long as it's, it's viable, it's registered with the Canadian or the Ontario government at that time. But coming here and starting the mobile service, at that time there was a 12,500, and I think it still is right now. So you had to come up with a sum of business startup cost of 12,500. So at the time I had a partner, so we kind of made a partnership with that. So I came with, because I didn't have that kind of money just hanging around. So, and I really wanted to do this. So we did that and started as a half and half. So knowing all of that, wading through the French and Luxembourgish, and I believe some of the forms were written in German. So with German, of course, I didn't speak. Luxembourgish, no. So French, minimal. I thought I knew French until I got here. I realized it
And
was
got all the paperwork in
exactly, got
French.
the paperwork, got here, and was in Luxembourg. Then I realized my French that I knew was nothing compared to what was necessary here. So it was a struggle getting through the documentation and filing the documents and learning. So I had to learn the whole system. And it took running from one office to the other to say, no, this is not where you do this. You have to go over there, and you need to make these copies, and you need to bring this and that and whatever. So it was frustrating as well, because even the instructions that were even given verbally, they were again in French. It was not a lot of English spoken as it was now. So it was hard, it was difficult, and there were moments when I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I can't do this anymore. It's just not working. And that's when you have to kind of build that tenacity, and you kind of, you sleep until the next day, and you say, okay, let's start at the beginning again. Or you have a glass of wine or something like that and say, okay, what are the things that are not working, and how can I resolve these? And it was hard, because in most cases I'm the only one thinking in that minute. It was a very small window. So I was by myself. I didn't have any of my friends here. I would call people in Canada, family or whatever, in terms of support. But because they did not know the system, nobody knew exactly what my situation was or what the trouble was, or could help me to find solutions, because they didn't know the system either. And so there were not a lot of entrepreneurs that I knew here. So I didn't have anyone to ask the question. So it was like, a vicious cycle. But at some point, the circle burst in some areas, and I kind of stepped through the door, and that helped me. Then that exercise helped me in understanding what it will take to set up now this physical location. So coming back to the physical location, that in itself was another 12,500 startup. So I knew that. However, you have to have that in the bank. But now I'm looking at infrastructure, as you said. There has to be a real live building. You have to find some place to pay a rent, because purchasing at that time, and even at this moment, was not, a question. And then you had to come up with, now, okay, you're going to set up something. You have to have rooms, you have to have equipment, you have to have water, facilities. So everything has to be thought about, and that required financing. And it was not easy. Not easy. Banks are not quick in lending money. They looked at my situation in terms of just being a mobile business, sole proprietorship, and not having a lot of meat and potatoes kind of background. They were not giving, they were not quick to give any money in terms of lending. So it took a while going to a number of different banks just to see what would happen before I finally landed on a lending institution. That was great. That was great. Yeah.
Indeed, I cannot imagine how challenging it must have been.
Yeah.
You are on your own and
Yes.
you can't rely on your friends and family. And also at the time, now the Luxembourgish government made some changes, right? So if you wanted to open a limited liability company, you
Mhm.
had to have this upfront investment.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now they created a simplified version where
Right.
the investment is anywhere from €1 to €12,000. Can you imagine how much easier it is now in terms of
Absolutely,
the
absolutely, yes. Because that 12,000 could easily have gone towards, if it were now, it could have easily have gone to getting equipment and at least paying your first month's rents and stuff like that. It could have been used a little bit differently, but yes. So times have changed. Yeah, indeed, indeed.
And from what I know, this 12,000 is actually it can go towards your costs, right? So it has to be on your bank account for
Absolutely,
just in the beginning, but then the idea is that you use this sum to pay rent,
right.
hire employees,
Right,
and whatever other
right,
expenses.
exactly, exactly. And I think it's, setting up the business the way I've set up the second one. It made sense because you have to, have something so that you can pay your suppliers. Because now I'm bringing products as well, because we sell products at our location, and also to buy, as I said, the equipment and everything else to work with supplies and also equipment, small machines and things like that. So that was necessary, but it was, in fact, I still had to go and get extra financing. And I will mention that it was Microlux. If anybody is interested that are setting up their businesses, they are still around and they're still helping very small, startups or small companies that have great ideas, but the financing and in terms of going to the big banks is not there for them. Microlux will go to bat for you, and that's what they did for me, which was wonderful, because I got the loan and I was able to get my business started and running, and yeah, that's good.
Yeah, maybe I'll just add from what I know, Microlux is also a great option for anyone who cannot borrow from traditional
Exactly.
lenders,
Right.
right? Especially if you are an expat or even a refugee or migrant with limited financial resources, they are the institution to refer to. From what I know, it takes roughly 2 to 3 years for a small business to become profitable. Of
Right.
course, it depends on the industry, the type of business you start, the upfront investment, market conditions, and so
Hmm.
on. So
Hmm.
for some, it's shorter period than for others.
Right.
What was it for you? How long did it take you to become financially sustainable and profitable business? And when did you start paying yourself a
Mm.
salary? Because from what I know, you had the privilege to hire few people
Yes,
and you started paying them salaries, obviously, but you were not able to pay yourself a salary,
absolutely.
which is, I think, is so important to emphasize because oftentimes, I think when we walk into entrepreneurship, we don't realize or we are overly optimistic.
Hmm.
But in a lot of cases, you are unable to take money home for quite some
Absolutely.
time.
Yes, 100.
So
Yeah,
tell us how it was for you.
100%. So when I started, I knew that after doing the calculations and looking at the costs and everything, I just felt, well, I knew that I wouldn't be able to pay myself at the beginning. But I felt that I had my daughter at the time, and I said, well, we might just be having, toast or cereal or whatever it is. But I knew it wouldn't be for a long time, and of course I exaggerated a little bit right there. But I just knew that I, I had to be on a very tight budget in terms of personal budget, and also started off the business not just running here and there and buying everything. I mean, I furnished the company by going to secondhand stores, because I didn't go to any of the large stores or anything like that, because I knew I put myself on a budget from day one. And I like that eclectic idea of getting pieces of furniture that don't necessarily match. So that was my style. So I didn't mind going to we call them garage sales or brocante here, and finding a nice piece of furniture and just say, yes, this would be for the spa. So if you come to the spa, even today, you're going to find things that don't match, but everything has a story. And you would be amazed sometimes at the price that I spent, paid for something that, it looks like I would have bought it in a first-hand store, let's put it that way. So I was, sanding down some pieces of furniture and learning how to repaint them and do certain things and making things work. So that's number one. Then, of course, the employees, they had to be salaried, they had to be paid. So that is a given. And then, of course, you had all the taxes and so on and so forth that needed to be put in place. So it's not easy. It's something you have to definitely think about and budget. That's the first thing. Go on a budget and just look at how you can spend minimally, but also still create the atmosphere, because you want your clients to walk into something that looks and feel nice, and that we are there to do the service that we promise on paper or however we had promised them. So it was a juggle and it was a struggle, but it came together. So I started, let's say 2018. End of 2017 was getting everything set up. And in 18, we were June before we actually literally started, because the painting and changing things around and having this location sorted out, it was not easy either. I had someone working with me, and the promises were made, but they were not kept. And that's also choosing the person you work with. What a lesson. I mean, you take people's word for things. Things were put on paper as well, but they also gave you their word. So I would have, somebody working, and I'd pass by there and I'm thinking, where is he? Is he gone out for lunch or something? And I'd hang around, I'd come back and he's not even there. He didn't show up. And I'm thinking, come on, this is costing me stuff, because I was paying the rent for the location before actually being in there. I tell you, there was some situations where we had to, I had to say, look, we've got to tidy this up. We've got to get going. We've got to open, because I cannot keep this place going on forever. And coming to work some days and not others. So in the end, had to send him packing before we actually were ready. And I had a great friend of mine who literally did come in and do some electrical work for me. And we're able to start off with the staff and get things running. So I'm just saying all of that to say there will be setbacks, there will be things that you don't think about, but you have to be ready to say, okay, for me, you have to be able to pivot as well, not get stuck in one way of seeing things. And sometimes you may have to put some things in place until you can get the actual things that you want to be put in place at a later time. So that was important. So paying myself, didn't get a paycheck until I'm thinking probably about 2020. So 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. Yes, because COVID.
Years.
Yes, because COVID came in 2020. Maybe I'd started just giving myself maybe a half of the minimum salary, and then COVID hit. And then it was, okay, my staff first, my suppliers who I had to speak to, cut back on my invoices, and just working with them to see if I could pay them a little bit at a time. So then again, I was the last one to be paid if there was anything left over. So I would say 2022, then things started picking back up, and then I started taking some salary from the company.
Yeah, no, this is incredible. And going back to the idea of having the tenacity, right?
Right,
And perseverance
right,
is so
right.
important.
It
And
is. It is.
believing in your business and
Yeah.
willing to take whatever it takes.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially like in your case, 3 years unable to kind of pay yourself a salary. Then you had to go through a whole challenge of COVID, which wasn't very easy for most businesses. It was a very challenging time.
Right.
If you reflect back on your journey, what were some of the biggest unexpected challenges you faced and how they have influenced your business philosophy moving forward.
Right. Well, I would say COVID was one of the biggest ones because I had to fight for, and not fight, because they ended up giving, the government of Luxembourg, which gave all staff a certain, or gave businesses sufficient money to pay their staff. But I found too then as well that I had some really great suppliers that were very understanding. And I think most of them were understanding at that time anyway. So that was good. I found out I had some really wonderful clients that I remember during COVID. A few of them offered to, we had some packages, some spa, I should say massage packages and facial packages that we would sell 5 at a time, and you purchase it one go, and then you would go get your services whenever you wish. A few of them offered to make those purchases during COVID, not knowing when we would go back to work. And it was amazing. That was wonderful. And the other thing I found out as well is that they came running when we were able to go back to work. We started opening 3 days a week, and before you know it, it was 4 days a week, and we went back to our normal 5 days a week. So we had some really loyal clients. That to me was something. It's amazing to see the loyalty with people, because, and that said to us, or to me, that the services that my staff and myself were offering to them, they really appreciated it, so they turned around and just came back for us, and it was so wonderful. It was really great.
You are, yeah, you are in so many ways lucky also, right? It's very
Absolutely.
difficult to build
Absolutely.
this kind of
Yes,
customer
this
relationship.
relationship. Yeah,
Yeah, and in a spa business, it's all about customer experience,
that's
making
right.
sure people have great experience, they're
Right.
happy and they want to come back.
Absolutely.
What have you found to be the most effective strategies for building a loyal customer base?
Yeah.
Kind of customers who are willing to do business, especially when you are
Yeah.
struggling as a business.
Yeah, I found, and it's based on the same principles there. I found that people are looking to have a one-on-one, to have interrelationship. They're not just looking for services. They're looking to have someone who they can connect with. Connection is important. They can take the work hat off and just let themselves go. And we promote that. I mean, I would come, clients would come to us, and I would speak to my staff as well. And they knew that we just started laughing and speaking and talking to our clients and understanding their life, and what some of them would share with us, their personal stories, or their personal or their work situations. And we would be there to listen. It's almost like going to the hairdresser, and people talk to the hairdresser as the next psychologist, I would say, in some cases. But honestly, I found that people felt that they could come in and speak with us. And of course, their information stayed private, but they felt they could let down their hair, so to speak, and just take the mask off and just let us know how they're feeling and what they're feeling. And by doing that, we were able to treat them in where their needs were. So for example, we work with, and this is what makes Spa Escape different, I believe. I work with a supplier that has different types of essential oils that they already mix for certain situations in life. And this company has like 14 different oils, and maybe more, but we've chosen to work with 14 because life has ups and downs, it has challenges, and not everybody is coming in being, wow, let's go. People are down. People have loss in their lives. They get sick. They have sleepless nights. And so we have oils and massage movements that we use to help people alleviate the situation. So I think that is where we get our connection from with our clients, because it's a two-way. It's a synergy that we have with them. And I think they found us to be genuine. I'm hoping it is, because we wouldn't get their personal stories, not that we're asking them to share, but they share knowing that they can. And then, as I say, that stays in confidence, but also we get good vibes from them as well. So I think from there it builds, because there's a lot of word of mouth. People give their loved ones or colleagues at work gifts from Spy Escape. So that tells us something as well, that we're doing something right.
It's amazing. And I think from my own business experience, I can tell that people want to be heard, right?
Absolutely.
Oftentimes,
100%.
I think life work is so
Hmm.
challenging,
Hmm.
and there are so many things people go
Hmm.
through. And
Hmm.
at times, they just need a couple ears
Of course. Yes.
to
Yes.
listen
Yeah.
to their stories,
Yeah.
and just the fact that you provide this safe space where they
Absolutely.
can let down the guards and share whatever is going on in their lives, right?
Yeah.
So Spa Escape not only provides maybe the physical alleviation to the
Right.
pains, but also provides psychological and emotional support.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, we're reaching the end.
Wow. Already?
Unfortunately, I have so many questions I would love to
Ah,
ask.
yes.
But there is one last question
Right.
I want to ask you, and this question was left for you by my previous guest. They left this question without knowing who they're leaving it for. The question might be actually very interesting and relevant in your business. The question reads, when you are at a crossroads or an inflection point in your entrepreneurial journey, whether it's scaling your business from 10 to 100 customers or from 100 to 1,000 customers, what approaches or mindset help you break through? How do you redefine yourself and your business in those moments to keep growing?
Hmm. That's interesting. I'm at that
Mm,
point right now. I am absolutely at that point right now. And I feel that we need to move in another direction and step things up. So, what I've done is I've taken a course on social media because I've had the other media houses from time to time contact me in terms of advertising, but I've tried those kind of advertisings and they really don't necessarily work for us or get us the clientele that we're looking for. So I've stepped things up. I've moved in another direction. I've spoken to my staff. I said, okay, this is we're gonna go. We're moving. We're moving. We're moving. So I felt that I didn't know enough about social media because it just came in and took everything by storm. And I'm a little bit older head, so to speak. So I was always brushing it off and saying, oh, it's just for the kids. But then I realized, oh, no, it's not just for the kids. So, or for the young people. So I decided to take some courses in social media. And it's amazing the amount of information and the amount of possibilities which I had not realized. Now, my company, as I said, we have already built a website. I had worked with someone, and so we're selling gift vouchers on the website. People can go on the website to book their treatments, and we're getting some information back from there and new newsletters and so on and so forth. But really stepping it up to the maximum right now and just using social media to move forward in a big way. And I think the next thing, which I'm also just getting an eyeful of, is AI. It's just moving on a scale even faster. I mean, I must have heard about AI 6 months ago or whatever, and I thought, I don't know about that, and all of a sudden it's like here and it's here to stay. So I just decided in my own spirit that, you know what, you got to go with it. I think I was a little slower getting onto the other platforms to begin with, and that's kind of kept me back. But now I've decided, okay, let's go, and it's been fun. I'm still learning, making lots of mistakes, but it's fun.
I mean, I think that's the thing in life, in business as well. We are forever students. I mean, it's a lifelong journey, and it's also great, but also challenging that technology develops this fast and in a pace that it's very difficult to keep up. But I think as long as you are open and you're open to experiment, you're open to learn, right? Maybe take whatever works for you for your business. That's already great.
That is key. Learning is key. You have to be able to become a learner, continue learning, reading books, going on, as I said, social media, and keeping up to date with what's going on.
Indeed. Dorothy, this
Mm.
was such a wonderful and wide ranging conversation. I really enjoyed learning about your story of how you built several businesses from ground up and now managed to find a new home that you really like. You have a staff, amazing staff, who are helping you to grow your business to the next level,
Absolutely.
and amazing customer base, loyal, who are ready to do business, especially in the heart of the times. So thank you so much also for sharing your perspective as an entrepreneur and demonstrating through your experience and stories that it is a difficult journey. It is a rewarding journey, and one has to have the tenacity, perseverance, as well as keep the eyes on the prize, as you said,
Absolutely.
right? Because
Right.
the journey is indeed challenging.
Hmm.
So you have to find ways to stay resourceful as
Hmm.
well as stay motivated. So
Got it.
thank you so much,
Yes.
Dorothy.
All right. Thank you so much, Dursun, for inviting me. And this was so much fun. I enjoyed myself. And that's the other thing. Just one last word: have fun. We cannot get too much into our business that we forget to live and have fun. It's so important. Thank you so much. I enjoyed this.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Dorothy.